Late summer of 2016, I was having some problems and I went into urgent care. The problems were like more with my bladder, I thought. I went in and they diagnosed pyelonephritis, and that's an infection in the kidney. And so they gave me an antibiotic for that. When I was done with the course of antibiotics, and I don't usually like to take antibiotics anyway, I was really in tune to my body, what was happening with it. After I finished the antibiotic, I still felt sick, nauseated, and a little bloated. I didn't know what was going on. So I went back in and they did some palpitations of my abdomen and tried to find out what was going on with my stomach there. They decided to do a scan and found 2 large tumors. One was large on the right ovary and the other one wasn't very large at all. They sent me for the scans and then they said, well, we don't know what this is. We're going to have to look further, maybe do surgery. I said, well, okay. I had had cysts on my ovaries before, but they were just like hair and teeth, which sometimes happens. So I wasn't too worried about it when they told me that. But then as we got farther along, I started thinking, oh dear, what if it is cancer? They scheduled me for surgery on the 24th of October, 2016. After surgery, they decided that it was cancer, but they didn't know what kind. They told my family while I was still out that it was cancer. And I thought, well, okay. Right after the surgery, when I got back to my room, my heart stopped and they had to call a code. I usually wake up right after surgery. I know what time I went in for surgery. I know what time I came out and everything, but I didn't know any of that. It was different that way. My family was there, my husband. When I woke up, I had my hand in the hand of a very handsome black man. And he said, you're going to be okay. I think it may have been an angel, but maybe not. I couldn't find him anywhere on staff, so I could thank him. He put me in ICU overnight, but other than that, it was fine. Before all this, I had been pretty healthy. I ate pretty good. I was vegetarian. I exercised. I lifted weights. I did all those kind of things. After the surgery, I didn't say anything to any of my doctors that I was not planning on doing chemotherapy or radiation or anything. They didn't give me a choice. They said, you'll need to do chemo 2 weeks after surgery if this is what it is. I made an appointment after my surgery to go to the oncologist because they wanted to collect everything, all the information that I would need. And my brother, who is an internal medicine physician out of Minneapolis, he was on the phone and I talked to the oncologist and she says, well, we have to start the chemotherapy right away. And I thought, being a nurse, I know that 2 weeks after surgery, it's going to be very painful to be vomiting and everything anyway. When I walked in their waiting room, I felt sick to my stomach because right out to the side was the chemotherapy rooms. And I didn't see anybody, but I could tell that's what was happening in there. It was not a good feeling at all. She didn't really give me any information. She says they don't really have any chemotherapy that will help peritoneal cancer anyway. But she says, we think you should do just the general chemotherapy and that would help. She said there were really not any side effects from chemo. And I knew that wasn't the case. I was vegan right after surgery. I was determined to figure this out because I said, I'm going to live for 35 years. Nobody's going to tell me when I'm dying. They gave me 6 weeks to 6 months without chemotherapy and maybe 2 years with chemotherapy. I said, well, I'm going to take my chances and do what I want to do because I think ultimately you are in charge of your own health. Everybody can tell you something, but a lot of people do die right on time when the doctor gives them a time frame. Oh, 6 months? Yep, I'll be dead now when they give up. I wasn't going to do that, and I didn't. My mother had a book, and she's been dead for quite a while now, but she had a book called The Grape Cure. It is very good, and I know the grapes have some sugar in them. It's a little bit sweet, but it's still good. But I thought, well, I'll try this while I'm researching everything to see what I want to do and recovering from surgery. I had a scar on my abdomen from a previous surgery that went the whole way from my navel all the way down. And I told him I wanted him to use that same scar to take out the scar tissue. So he did. So I think it was opened up farther than most people would have for my type of surgery. So I had a big scar. And I thought, well, while I'm recuperating from this, I will just research while I'm doing the grapes. So I did the grapes for 3.5 weeks. And it just happened I had some labs due at the end of that 3.5 weeks. And they were all completely normal. It was interesting because some people say, oh, your electrolytes and everything's going to be way off if you just eat grapes. But they weren't. They were perfectly okay. It's the only mono diet, I guess they call it, that actually builds down the bad stuff and then has it exit the body and then builds you back up again. They don't recommend it too long, but just for a little while is fine. I didn't have any problem doing it. My husband did it with me, which was nice. My sisters did some of it with me too. Some people say I can only go a week, but whatever you can do is good. Just listen to your body and what you can do. And so I did the grapes, like I said, while I was researching. And after I got off that, I ate a whole foods, plant-based diet. I didn't eat any wheat for the first 6 weeks, and mostly raw. Some cooked things, but mostly raw. Did I say 6 weeks? I meant 6 months. And then I also contacted You Cheap Hides in Seal, Alabama. They have a program that if you want to heal anything, high blood pressure, cancer, whatever, you can go there. At that time, which is probably more expensive now, you could go there for $5,000. And I thought, well, if I have a call with them, maybe a consult on the phone, they can give me the information and I can see if I can do this stuff at home. I thought, I don't want to spend $5,000 when I could use it for other equipment that I might need. I had a consult with them right away. My husband, daughter, and my daughter-in-law were on the call with me, so one of them took notes so that I would remember what it all was. The doctor I talked to there told me to take 5 kinds of tea: chaparral, podiarco, graviola, red clover, and sweet wormwood. They were the 5 teas. And then some aloe vera. I mixed them all together because some were very pleasant tasting. Then I thought, how can I drink 5 cups of this plus all the other things I'm trying to do? I did some juicing, some green smoothies right at the beginning too. But the biggest thing was, they call it hydrotherapy. I think sometimes hydrotherapy is hot and cold. This was just hot, where you get in the bathtub and raise your temperature to 102 to 104 and stay in there for 20 minutes and then lay on what I call the sweat bed and sweat for an hour. And do that 5 days a week, 3 weeks out of the month. So on that other week off, you don't really have to do any. But I also did the rebounder and I continued my weightlifting. It was 1 week after surgery, but of course it was a reduced program, but my trainer is really good. We did a very light workout to get the blood moving and everything in there. I did that, and during the summer, I walk probably 2 miles barefoot, which is supposed to be good for you too. But of course I couldn't do that because this was during the winter and I live in Wisconsin. So it would have been hard. I thought, well, I could go down there at his place and do those baths and have somebody help me, but I thought, well, maybe I can figure it out on my own. So I started the end of December probably, and I would do like 10 minutes and get my temperature up. But in January, I really hit it hard, and I started doing it 5 days a week. And it's interesting because people say, well, how can you get in water that's hot enough to get your temperature up that far? Well, I call it the frog method. You don't fill the tub and then get in. You fill it maybe 6 inches, then you get in and you keep making it hotter and hotter, because the frog will jump out if he gets in when it's too hot. But if he's slowly brought up to temperature, he doesn't get out. I did that, and it took me probably a month to get really into my routine because it's tough to do 3 weeks out of the month, and you have to have somebody with you. I would definitely not suggest doing it on your own. I didn't have anybody that was trained really to help with it. So I used my granddaughters. I have 5 of them that live within a mile of me. The youngest was 6 and the oldest was 13 at the time. And so they sat with me, did all sorts of things while I was in the 20 minutes of 102 temperature. I only brought it up that high because I didn't want to get it too high and have something happen to me with the kids there. My husband was there, especially when the 6-year-old was there, so that if she needed anything, she could talk to him. I tried to have him help me with it, but it just wasn't working out. I think he got bored with it. But the granddaughters helped because they would sing to me, they would listen to music with me, they would go over their schoolwork, like the capitals of the cities, or just anything to keep me interested. The sweat bed was really boring. Sometimes we would watch maybe a video or something, but it was tough to do that. I figured out that just to pile blankets on you was not working for me because I'm a little claustrophobic. I found out about the amethyst biomat. It would keep me warm, so I could put it up as high as it would go, which was, I think, 158 degrees. And then I would just put a light blanket over me, so that worked way better. So with these kind of things, you just have to figure out for yourself what's going to work for you, because you can't tell somebody, oh yeah, do it this way, because it may not work for them. You have to figure it out yourself, and that's what I tell everybody. You have to figure it out for yourself. But I figured that out. I did it for 6 months. Then they told me that I could do it once a month, 1 week, once a month. So I did that for several years after that. During all this time, though, I had labs every 90 days, and they all looked good. The ESR and the CRP kept coming down, and that was really nice. But I did just natural things at home that weren't too expensive. That's what I was looking for.